Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, is a 1985 slasher sequel that follows a now teenage and formerly institutionalized Tommy Jarvis to a secluded halfway house where the killings start up again. Part 5 was directed by Danny Steinman and made on a budget of just over $2 million. The film opened at number 1 and pulled in nearly $22 million. The film features the highest body count in the franchise up to that point, required 9 submissions to the MPAA just to earn an R rating, and has a protagonist who speaks only 24 words throughout the entire film. But despite its attempts to up the sleaze and body count and adding a twist ending to kick off a new saga, A New Beginning is often ranked by fans and critics as one of the weakest entries in the entire franchise. But let's find out. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me, as always, is Chris Anonymous, and we have our special guest, Martin Gilmore. What's up, man? I gotta dote on you a little bit here. We have been friends for a very, very long time, but you are out there kicking ass in the folk music and bluegrass world. You were just telling us right before the show started that you just won a few of the biggest songwriting contests in folk music. Maybe the world?
No, I don't know about the world. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's like the World Series. How many countries actually play? You know.
Right. Well, I mean, you're doing it, man. I love to see you getting the accolades that you've worked so hard for a very long time. You have a new album out. You are doing things on your own YouTube channel. Should probably say both of those. First of all, what's your YouTube channel so people can find that?
It's just at Martin Gilmore, so you can find me there. And I kind of post like lessons from time to time. And I know a lot of songs. Like, I've just been a professional musician for a long time, so I use my YouTube channel to kind of post songs that I maybe wouldn't record on a record. And then I have like original songs there as well. But it's kind of a resource for a lot. I'm a teacher besides being a player, so I use it kind of as a resource for my students. It's it's a fun place to be. I have a lot of followers and a great community, and it's cool to be over there, and it's really cool to be here on this. This is out of my comfort zone, but that's okay.
Well,
and then
some people may be asking. Oh, there we go. Thea is a light blue. Out now.
Yep, it's just me and my guitar, just sitting in the studio playing songs. Most of them I wrote, and then some of them are old folk songs. I was trying to think if any of them are horror songs, because there's a lot of kind of quasi horror stuff in folk music, like murder ballad songs about killing your girlfriend and stuff. But I don't think I recorded any of those. Old King John. There's a verse in there about how he tortures people. So that's about as close as we get.
Well, check it out. I haven't listened to the entire album, but Spotify, and I think this is cool. I know there's some issues with Spotify in the music world, but I think it's cool when I'm listening to a random song, like a random playlist on Spotify, and every once in a while you'll have a song pop up and they're from the new album and they're bangers. So make sure you guys check out Thea is a Light Blue. I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video. I think that will also be able to link in like the Spotify and iTunes versions of the podcast as well. So make sure you guys go and check it out. I think you can buy it on Bandcamp. Buy a physical copy, you can buy a digital copy, you can stream it. Check it out. You won't regret it. And so, yeah, this is kind of out of your wheelhouse, and some people might be asking, why would you have a bluegrass folk musician on here? Well, one, we've been friends a long time, and we've gone through like this creative journey together for a long time. In fact, you've seen Martin's work on this channel before. He was the man behind the camera on our short film Geo Killer, and also the man behind the banjo on the soundtrack. So
Yeah,
we've worked on making things together. We also have a new a short film out right now that Chris and I made. It is called Somebody's Watching You. It's currently out in some festivals, so hopefully we get a screening at Telluride as well, and then we can all go to Telluride, Colorado together and party it up. But yeah, I've met through you, Martin. I've met quite a few bluegrass and folk people, and I think they like weird movies. I think they like strange things. I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We're all about all of that stuff. Yeah, traveling around, looking at, seeing weird stuff, staying in weird hotels. Yeah, I've seen it all.
Well, you had an album out once where you were you couldn't buy the album. No one could buy the album. They had to just give you something for the album. Anything.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I still have that. It's the trade songs. It's all cowboy songs, trade songs, American West. So people can go there and they can name their price, or if they want to send me something, it's totally for trade. I've gotten some awesome, weird stuff. I got a Roman coin. That was pretty cool. I got the other day somebody gave me the head of a sledgehammer that's broken. Not the hammer's not broken. It's the head of the sledgehammer that's broken, which is pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to break a head of a sledgehammer. That's pretty fun. We did this years ago with a different group that I was playing with, and we were up in Canada, and somebody gave us like a skull of an otter or something like that, which we didn't bring back across the border. We thought that would be a bad idea, and we did get searched, so it's a good idea that we didn't bring it. But yeah, I've seen it all. I've been all these places that this movie took place in, and yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, let's start getting into the show proper. The way we do this is we like to talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock of these movies. We try and take movies that might be underrated or maybe underappreciated or just sort of not generally seen as A+ fare, and we try and talk about it like it's Citizen Kane, give it its due. But first, before we do that, I'm going to need you all who are watching and listening to go to the YouTube channel and click subscribe. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. We're like 20 away. So that would be great if we bumped right on up. And if you're listening on the podcast, please make sure you rate the show, leave a review, and help us get pushed out there a little bit more. So let's dive in with a little section that we call Web of Schlock, where we like to see who made this movie.
Yeah, so let's start with the director, Danny Steinman. This was a hit for him. I mean, it got really bad critical reviews, but it made money. But unfortunately, this was the last movie he directed. I think there was a series of just things that just didn't go right. And before this, he only had a handful of movies. Savage Streets was an 80s movie, and he only had 2 others before that. And what I've seen of those, one's kind of another horror movie, and the other one might be like this X-rated film that he did in the 70s.
So I think he did a softcore porno, which I think he was trying to do again.
Not a lot of not a lot of credit to this guy, but it was an interesting movie. The writers, David Cohen was one of the writers. He wrote another movie called The Treasure that came out in the 90s, which kind of, from what I can tell, looks like wannabe Goonies type thing. And then the other writer, Martin Kittrosser, we've seen before on this channel. He did Friday the 13th Part 3. He wrote that. He wrote Friday the 13th Final Chapter. He wrote Meatballs Part 2, and he also wrote Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and then he's the one. I'm not going to get into it too much here, but if you go back to the one of those other movies where we talk about him, he went on to be like a script supervisor for Tarantino, and is like been a script supervisor for like all his movies pretty much, and a lot of other big blockbuster movies. Like, it's just an interesting career path. And then in front of the camera, let's just mention a couple. We got the woman who played Pam, Melanie Kinnaman. She was in Best of the Best. She had some roles in Cheers and General Hospital. And then early 90s, late 80s, she kind of dropped off. And then in the last 5 years, she's had a couple more credits, something we've seen before. I Spill Your Guts Part 2, and other really kind of low budget horror movies where they want these like old school scream queens coming back for these cameos. John Shepard, who played Tommy, he was in Down Periscope, he was in Bless the Child, he was in Hunt for Red October, some TV. So again, he also kind of dropped off the map after a while and has come back with some more movies lately.
Okay.
And then we have very small role in this movie, Miguel A. Nunes Jr. He played Demon. He played Reggie's older brother, but we've seen him before. He was Spider in Return of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
He was also the voodoo maestro in Scooby-Doo.
I think in Return of the Living Dead, I think he was like basically exactly the same character.
Like,
right?
Yeah.
Like living in a van.
I think it was a red outfit that he had in that, maybe, and a black one in this, but I can't remember. But yeah, it was pretty much the same.
You're thinking of Eddie Murphy.
Right. That's it. He was Styx in Leprechaun 4 in space. He was DJ in Street Fighter the movie. I mean, this dude, and those are just some. He's still acting today. I mean, he has a lot of credits. It was a nice treat seeing him in this movie. And then Shavar Ross, who played his little brother Reggie, he had lots of TV all the way up into like the mid 90s. He was in Mork and Mindy, MacGyver, Punky Brewster, Different Strokes, Magnum PI, Family Matters. So in the 80s and 90s, you saw him around a lot too. And that's really about it. There's some other people who had some other movies. If there's one of your favorites, look them up. But yeah, I think we'll move on from there.
Well, so I got to throw out two little points of trivia here. One that I think is absolutely hilarious. So the actor that played Tommy, what was his name? John Shepard.
Yes.
Right. And Bless the Child, which is an awesome movie, by the way.
It is.
So when they were casting this movie, they cast it under a different name. They didn't say that it was a Friday the 13th movie. They called it Repetition, I think, which was kind of a joke that this is repeating. It was named after a David Bowie's song, I believe. Anyway, he kind of knew what this was going to be, but he didn't know it was going to be a Friday the 13th movie. So in order to prepare for the role, he worked for several months at a mental health institution. I volunteered there to get into character. And then he like comes to set and finds out, oh, I am just in a Friday the 13th movie. I'm just in some horror schlock B movie nonsense.
Yeah, he went full Daniel Day-Lewis, and then never mind. Yeah.
But with his performance, I would believe that he was mentally disturbed. So I think he did well.
Yeah,
and also there is an actress in this by the name of
I can't remember her first name, but her last name was Voorhees.
Well, everything I was seeing it oscillated between two different names, like Deborah and Debbie Sue or something like that.
Yeah.
Deborah Voorhees. Yeah. So I think she basically got hired because of that. Like it stood out on paper. And I think maybe some other things got her hired as well. But interesting movie. The director, looking into him, I think he sounds like maybe a bit of a sleazebag. Sounds like he was basically high on cocaine the entire time and just trying to shoot woodland pornography that they had to cut down. The excuse was saying that they'll cut out all of the nudity and keep all of the gore in. The MPAA will want them to cut down all the nudity and keep all the gore in, but apparently Paramount just edited most of the gore out anyway.
I mean, that's a kind of staple in a lot of directors' belts where they make something so extreme, knowing that parts will get cut out,
right?
So they can keep other parts.
I think they did that with like the South Park movie, Bigger, Longer, Uncut. And they're just like, we're going to make this
Team America. Yeah. But I think there's lots of horror movies that do that, where it's like, we know this is going to get cut, but we'll give them that concession so we can have what we really want.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's move into Schlock proper. Martin, I got to ask you, normally we've just been going through this series on our own. I thought this was a good time to bring another person in because I know that this is out of your wheelhouse. You haven't seen a whole lot of the Friday the 13th movies. You said that we've watched one together and you've maybe watched part of another one. Have you seen this one before?
No, I had never seen this one before. I saw the first one at some point, and then you and I watched, is it X?
Jason X.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yeah, so
we watched that in
was
theaters, I think.
Yeah, that one came after, I guess, with all that. And no, I haven't seen the other ones, I don't think. I kind of know a little bit about it just because we had talked about it, and some of those things kind of returned as we were going through this. I want to say a couple other things before we go on, just because like the people that I liked, the things that I liked from the movie production, I thought the music is really good, like exceptionally good music. And I looked up that guy whose name, hold on, I have it here, is Henry Manfredini, and I guess he did all the music for the Friday the 13th movies or something. I thought it's worth shouting out that, because that was like really good music. And the cinematography in this I thought was pretty good. Like I thought it looked really good, even though, I mean, not we'll go to the gore later, but just the framing of the shots and how everything. And that guy was Stephen Posey. I looked that up. Those were the two things that I really liked.
That really stuck out to you.
Yeah, I like the music and the
the music was awesome. Yeah,
it makes sense that you go there, and yeah, the music has definitely been a staple of the movies so far. I think we've enjoyed in every single one.
Yeah.
But my big question for you is the twist. Did you see that twist coming at all? Did you have any idea that the killer was not in fact Jason Voorhees at all, like the classic mass killer?
No, I had no idea, and I thought that was stupid.
I think a lot of people did.
I was like, "Oh, come on, that's ridiculous." I mean, there's always sort of this like superhuman element, I think, to like superhuman element to Jason, and to have like a real person like doing these like throwing people through a window and like
bursting through a door.
Yeah, being so fast, and then like the fact that the dude who's like was playing him like has a whole full head of hair, and he's wearing also like a bald hat. Like that's stupid.
Yeah, it's like wearing like this. Yeah. Yeah. Those are some big problems I have with this. In the 9th movie, which is also one of the most good movies. It's one of my favorite. I think they do a good job at kind of explaining some of this, or giving some at least plausible deniability on like why he would be so strong. But that's a whole other rant for another time. We're focusing on this one. Oh, and shoot, it looks like we have a Maniac Clown in the chat. What's up? Glad that you're here. He calls it call it slide of bullhorn. He's talking about putting things into movies that you intentionally mean to get cut, and then hoping to get the thing that you really want in. Man, we're glad that you're here. So yeah, this movie, it takes some really wild turns. It makes some wild decisions, I guess I should say.
Yeah. One thing I read that might inform some of the
you're just
like every 6 or 7 minutes.
Yes, yeah, he was given the directive to every 8 minutes there needs to be some sort of shock or thrill, which I think it delivers on. However, I think it delivers on it poorly. I don't want to rag on the film too much yet.
Right.
Want to get some other schlocky things out of the way, but yeah, I think that's an interesting idea of like here's sort of maybe the pacing for a horror film, like how often you need to have something happen to keep the audience interested with the thrills and chills. But it really kind of makes it more of a series of not interlocked sequences.
Like vignettes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think there were just too many characters. Like the whole thing was like nobody gets enough screen time to
100%.
really care about them or be invested in their story. And that was one of my big beefs with that. It's like I don't really. I mean, I know that's kind of the whole point is like, oh, these people are all going to be murdered by the monster, but still, like, it's really hard to have been invested in it. Even the main character is like, I mean, I guess if you've watched the previous ones, maybe you're more invested in the guy, but just coming at it as like the fifth in the film, it's like, boy, I don't know how much I'm supposed to care about this guy. And like, he doesn't have very much screen time. It's hard to know if he's actually the main character.
He only spoke 24 words.
Well, and he disappears toward the end of the movie because the movie
Right.
wants you to think that he might be Jason.
Yeah,
Right.
they didn't do a very good job with that. I never thought he was Jason.
Yeah, I agree with you.
A big question I have is, does this movie have a final girl? Is Pam the final girl trope? Or is Tommy supposed to be a scream king? He doesn't really scream, but he's supposed to be the main character, right?
I mean, I think they wanted to try and have their cake and eat it too. But like, if we go back to part 4, we have a scream queen, but then we have Tommy as Corey Feldman, who teams up with her at the end. And they kept that same trope here. We have the scream queen, we have the final girl, but then we have Reggie as the kid who comes and helps her out. And then on top of that, we get Tommy coming in. So they kind of all share different duties, but it's really becomes a group effort of like, well, we don't want to just have one person left. We want these 3 people left. And like, it feels like every movie there's going to have another person who lives at the end until like, Friday the 13th part 20, where no one dies.
Megan says Reggie was the scream queen.
Yeah.
Who wasn't afraid of anything, but like was actually afraid of everything.
I mean, yeah.
Did you ever see Freddy's Dead? It was like the 6th or 7th Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
I don't know if I did or not.
There's a lot of similarities between this movie and that movie, where the main character winds up at a like a home for troubled teens or whatever. And it's just interesting because they actually have a pretty low body count, because it's maybe 4 or 5 people, but you actually get their background story of like why they're there, and we never really get that with any of these people. Like we know that Joey's an orphan. Vic clearly has some sort of anger and violence issues. Tommy is traumatized. There's the guy.
Violet thinks she's Madonna.
Violet thinks she's Madonna. And then the other girl that's probably pretty normal. Like we just don't know these people. Like you said, Martin, we don't know these people's background story.
Because we get so much more time with all these characters who then just get killed. You never see them before, you never see them after. It's just like, let's have a scene where you meet someone and then they die and then we move on.
Right. I really want to talk about that. They did not. They could have used those scenes to further the story so much better, to give everyone's background so much better. I think maybe there's like 2 scenes that they could have completely cut and completely rewritten. But the who is it? Billy and Lorraine. So Billy is the guy who drops Tommy off.
Oh, Lana.
Lana.
Yeah.
Drops Tommy off at Pinehurst. So he is connected to the story. And he's kind of a jerk. So, you want to see him, but he is a jerk. So you want to see him get offed. But like, I think the little bit of dialogue that's there, I think they could have upped that to to mention something about like the Jason Voorhees survivor is there, and like I think they could have done a much better job of building up the myth of Jason Voorhees, that everyone's like still kind of scared of this myth, right? Which would, or not myth, but of this thing that happened, which would give Roy Burns more incentive to like take on the persona. But we're not even sure if Pinehurst is like anywhere near Crystal Lake. Yeah, there's no lakes in this movie.
So big surprise. I don't want to get in too much here, but this is not my favorite Friday the 13th. But because I had so many issues with it, I was racking my brain to like try and find a way to salvage it. So I have a theory that I'm going to run by you and see if you can run with it at all.
Sure.
All right. So instead of being called A New Beginning, it should have been called I Dream of Jason, because I mean, that's what he's doing the whole time.
Right.
So kind of like Crystal Lake, there feels like it's not so much a killer, but a kill zone. Like if, in some of the previous movies, if you're a hitchhiker and you're in that woods, you're fair game. Right. So it's not so much that like he's just killing the teens at the camp or at the rehabilitation center or wherever. He's killing anyone within his radius.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the other thing I thought about was the mystery kills, because it's really interesting. In Act 3, we get the fake Jason in a Jason mask. So until the reveal, we all assume it's Jason. But before that, for the rest of the film, they just show like his arm, a weapon, and then it going into someone's flesh. You never see who it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing up this mystery a lot. And so I'm thinking, they talk about how Jason was dead at the beginning and how, Tommy shouldn't worry because he's dead. So I was thinking, what if it's not Roy who's killing all these people? What if it's different people killing? Because we have that precedent at the very beginning. We have the guy, who was it, Vinny, or he was the guy chopping wood who kills Vic kills the kid with the chocolate bars. He's not Roy, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, because Jason is dead, his spirit is leaking out into this whole surrounding area and causing people to go insane. And I'm thinking some of these other people who were getting killed with the mystery hands were killed by other people than Roy. And I think Roy was the killer at the end, but I think it was this whole thing of, if you're in this area, you might go insane and kill someone else. Which
would make great sense if they were at Crystal Lake, since they don't disclose where they are, right? Why would Jason's
I'm going to assume
like the
that they're
county
near.
Over?
I'm assuming they're near Crystal Lake. I mean, the barn is pretty much the same as in Act 3 as the last movie. Looks like almost the same barn. So I'm assuming it's near Crystal Lake. But then I was thinking about it in part 6, at the very beginning, they dig Jason up, spoilers, and he gets brought back to life. So therefore his spirit is trapped in the vessel that is Jason again, and we never get a fake killer or multiple killers for the rest of the series. So I'm saying that Jason's spirit is in this area causing people to take on the role of Jason. And there's a bunch of killers in this movie, and they're all killing different people. And you only really caught the two, the first one and the last one.
Well, I want to jump in, but Martin had something to say.
I'm done. That's all I got.
I was going to say the only connection is the sheriff mentions that he thinks it's Jason Voorhees in the one scene, and the mayor just dismisses him. And that's who knows.
Yeah,
I mean, I love that scene.
Yeah.
That felt very Jaws-y to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
idea
thinking.
would be better than what the movie actually was.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. That is what Jason Goes to Hell Part 9 is.
Yeah.
They blow him up, and like the coroner that is doing the autopsy or whatever, like gets like this possession to like eat Jason's heart or something, and he like turns.
That's right. Yeah, I haven't seen that one
the spirit
so long.
of
I forgot.
Yeah, and people hate it. It's one of my favorite Fridays. I understand why people hate it for the most part, but I mean, the movie does a lot to like kind of try and retcon some of the very, very weird decisions that are made throughout the series, or not retcon, but explain.
Right. So I guess my theory, I totally forgot about Jason Goes to Hell, but yeah, so that really adds credence to my silly theory.
Yeah, and I think that's in there. I think they tried doing some of that with the Halloween movies, specifically the newer ones. And I think like if you look at this movie through the lens of those movies, like this completely different franchise, it actually begins to make a little more sense to like the evil is passing on, or the evil spirit or something. But yeah. You were talking about how it was a good mystery. I kind of want to go back to that, because it really was, I think, supposed to be a whodunit type film. And that really harkened back to the original movie, where we don't we see the killer's hand, I think, in the very first kill. And then after that, I don't think we really see them. And you're trying to figure out who it is. And there's a lot of misdirection of, is it the guy who owns the camp? Is it someone else? I think there may be a couple suspects. And this movie actually has a ton of potential suspects in it. Just name them off real quick. The Hubbards, the crazy neighbors, Ethel and Junior, they're very good candidates because they have kind of a, I think, similar Pamela Voorhees and Jason Voorhees mother-son relationship.
Yes, very much.
He's not maybe mentally all there. She is obviously a very controlling mother. They have no qualms apparently about chopping things up. And they live kind of this secluded hillbilly lifestyle. We have the Drifter, who has a name. I think it's like Raymond or something like that, but they never say it. So we have this Drifter wandering around. We have
the main
Tommy
counselor.
Did you think he was a?
Well, because he disappears about a little over halfway through, and they're like, "Well, where's he at?" And they're like, "We don't even know." So I think I don't think he was like a prime suspect, but I think he disappeared, Tommy disappeared. You're like, okay, either they got killed off screen or they're the killer.
See, I wouldn't include him just because the grandpa disappeared, and I wouldn't think the grandpa was doing it unless everyone's just simultaneously getting possessed.
Right.
But yeah, we have Tommy, and then we have Vic, who I think is like the biggest missed opportunity in this movie, because one, if Roy Burns is going on a killing rampage to avenge his estranged son, why isn't he going after Vic?
He knows who killed him. You don't have to go on a killing rampage. You just go kill the guy.
Right. Or why isn't Vic a suspect? Well, he's not a suspect because he's been apprehended. Right. And I think cutting out, say, like the weird greaser scene where those two guys are like just complete assholes, and I think they're greasers or they're leather daddies, one or the other. If you cut out that scene and put in something about, hey, Vic has gotten loose. Yeah. Right. We know that he's kind of a psychopathic killer. And so that gives Roy Burns like a reason to like move about to kill, to try and find him and do the Jason thing where he's killing anyone who gets in his way. And it would be some good misdirection. Like they just really missed a lot of those story beats that would be very tiny, very easy to add in, like it'd just be dialogue. And
and there was no group of characters trying to solve the mystery, which is important in a mystery.
Right. Yeah. Except for maybe the sheriff, who, after we get that great Jaws-like scene, doesn't come in again until the very end, where he's like, "Oh, look at these newspaper clippings."
He just Deus Ex Machina's in and explains it away.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, here's what's up.
Oh, man, look at that.
Exactly.
I guess he was Roy's boy after all. We don't know why he didn't claim him all these years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Joey gives a pretty big info dump when he's talking to Vic. He's like, me being an orphan and all is like,
Oh yeah.
I think so people say that the acting in this movie is bad. I actually think it's pretty good. I think 5 minutes alone with Joey, I'd probably want to axe him up too. But like what he's doing, like it's actually very smart, right? He's giving the audience an info dump, but he's doing it in like this very annoying way that is very true to what I think that character is supposed to be. Like if you listen to it, it explains a lot of the movie, but the way he's presenting it, you're just like, shut up, dude. Go eat your candy bar somewhere else.
Clean your mouth off, bro.
Clean your mouth. You are almost an adult.
Yeah. You just got chocolate over there. Clean white sheets. I'm surprised they didn't kill you. Yeah, I don't really have anything else for Schlock. I mean, I little things like I love that it starts raining at the beginning of Act 3. I don't know how many horror movies do that, but a lot.
Yeah, you have to do that,
right? Yeah.
One thing. So I'll fire a few things off. Let's see. Billy, go back to him. How old do you think that guy is? Because he looks like he's 50 years old. But is this a case of people back in the day looked much older? Was he like 30?
Which one was
25?
Billy?
The guy doing coke in his car, picking up.
Oh yeah.
I think he was supposed to be 35. A young guy.
But yeah, I think it was. I think it's the second thing you said, Darby, where it's like people back then just looked older.
Yeah, I mean, he acted like a cartoon, which I was like, this is so crazy.
Characters acted like cartoons.
Yeah, everything in this movie was dialed to 11. Right there's more kills, more boobies, more extreme personalities. I mean, Ethel is an absolute cartoon. Billy is an absolute cartoon. The mayor is an absolute cartoon. Like hardly anyone is likable. I would argue that Pam and Gramps are like
and Reggie
likable people.
I liked Reggie, but Pam and Gramps definitely.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Roy's killing schedule. I thought it was very odd that he could carry out his paramedic duties and kill in the middle of the day as well. It makes sense if it was like at night, but I thought that was
he's not the only killer.
Very strange. He might be onto something, man. The enchilada scene where he read
man,
Demon. Not Reggie.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Just out of talk about Deus Ex Machina. The Deus Ex Machina enchiladas that lead him to his demise. It's just so out of nowhere.
So out of nowhere. And then they're like singing to each other while he's on the toilet. And
yeah, that was weird.
And that was the next thing. Did you notice that there's like a ton of singing in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like the greasers, he's like, oh, you got to get the car fixed, you asshole, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and then the waitress, she's like, I think he loves me. And then Demon and his girlfriend like start singing. I don't know. Maybe this is the first Friday the 13th musical.
Well, I would like to see what else was on the cutting room floor.
That was good.
yeah.
Let's talk about that music.
Well, cool. Yeah, that was just kind of a rapid fire of schlock. I think there's a lot of schlock in this movie that a lot of it might go into bad. So let's skip ahead. Let's get into the bad, and let's rag on this movie. Let's tear it down, and then we'll end with a nice palate cleanser of the good.
Martin, Martin, as our guest, what's bad about this movie?
I thought the story was pretty hard to follow. I thought the characters were not like super developed. I mean, I basically feel like it was just kind of like a buffet of like, here's all the people that we can kill. I think the gore wasn't very good in a lot of cases. Like I think a lot of it looked fake. In fact, there was one character I think where like her throat gets cut and then they show her and you could see like her pulse like
Mhm.
like which I thought was weird, and there's like no blood or anything. It's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
not that's like a bad edit or something. But
I was actually trying to look it up to see if there was some sort of budget constraint or something,
Yeah.
because I mean, in the first Friday the 13th, we see we see them get their head chopped off, and I think the third one we see a guy's head get squeezed and his eyeball pops out, right?
Yeah.
And this one, it was actually like very, very low budget gore.
Yeah.
Right? You
I
only see the beginning and the aftermath, and that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't think, I mean, I didn't think it was like, I thought it was kind of like stage makeup almost, like
Yeah.
like it was more representative than actually showing what it is. But I think it wasn't representative in a way that like allowed your imagination to take over, which I think could be more powerful
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
some cases. I just think it was done better in others. That's the
Right.
Yeah.
It was done better even prior, even 4 movies
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, exactly. And I
And
wasn't invested in the characters, and that really bummed me out because it's like I just couldn't get myself to care about like who
Yeah.
cares? I'm like,
yeah, so what?
I'm not, I don't, yeah, the main character guy, I wasn't super invested in his story, although I haven't seen the other movies. Maybe you would be if you had seen the others. I don't know that any of the deaths were particularly upsetting. And maybe the death of Jason at the end was probably the one that like I wasn't sad, but it's like, oh yeah, all right. And then that one's it's not him. Like, hey, what the hell? like none of this makes sense at all.
Well, like maybe that Tommy would have been more likable if they had spent more time with, say, him and Reggie bonding
Yeah.
in some way, because maybe mentally he's still kind of a kid because he was about the same age as
Right.
Reggie when this thing happened to him, and they bond over masks or something.
Well,
And
yeah,
that
'cause-
was it's the give him some save the cat, right?
Yeah, 'cause,
Yeah.
I mean, Reggie's super excited when he gets invited to go visit the brother.
Yeah.
He's happy Tommy's coming along.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So obviously it feels like they did bond over something, but we never get to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think they could have cut out, I mean, they could have cut out maybe 5 of the kills and had a better character development, and the kills that were left would have worked better. And I still think they probably could have hit their 8-minute mark, and you would have cared a lot more about the characters. Just the characters get away more, like, oh
Yep.
man.
Yep,
And-
Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't like that.
I totally agree
Maniac-
with you, man.
Maniac brings up a good point. Would we have been more invested in the character if it was still Corey Feldman playing the
100%. Because he would have been around the same age as Reggie, and it just would have had a different vibe.
role? Right. Well, and like you're saying, Martin, would this have been more impactful if you had seen the other movies? If it was the same actor, potentially, because you could see them, you could see more of a full story arc happening
Yeah.
in some way, potentially.
I think like that character was strange too, because like he's clearly like throughout the movie supposed to be this like super badass, like he's been motivated to be like this big fighter, and he's like super fit and everything.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he just like totally freezes, and this
Right.
paramedic like slashes him with a machete, and then he's like useless. Like what is
Yeah.
going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, boy, I understand like that was maybe a motivation, but it ended up meaning nothing except he beats up the other guy. I think there was a lot of like they were trying to do a lot of misdirection to get you guessing at who was who, and I think that was a mistake. They should, in my mind, like it would have been way more compelling if it's just like, hey, Jason's back for whatever, just whatever thing.
Yeah.
And I sort of like thinking through the what I remember from the first movie. I feel like that was sort of the point of this movie, was like they were trying to reset the franchise, as I read, and so
Mhm.
they were like leaning into a lot of the stuff from the first film in hope, maybe this is my guess, in hopes of like resetting the franchise in that way. And even with the ending of like the ending is really strange, and you don't know what's going on at the end, and it's sort of but I don't think it like I'm curious about like what the next film and how it did in comparison with this, because I'm not sure I would have been interested in seeing another film after this one, you know.
Well, the next one is one of my favorites.
It's the best.
Oh,
The next
yeah.
one is hands, but it completely goes in a different direction.
And
Yeah.
see, the thing is that I confuse this movie and that movie a lot, different scenes in it, because I think, again, the scenes in this movie are just kind of disconnected.
Yeah.
Right. And so me seeing these films on TV as a kid, like seeing, the USA Friday the 13th marathon, right, where you only get to catch parts and pieces of it. Like these scenes make a lot more sense maybe in a different movie, because I think in the next movie, I think the police are actually chasing Tommy Jarvis because they think he's a suspect. So that the Mayor Jaws scene makes a lot more sense. The next movie opens with the Tommy digging up the grave in
Best
the rain.
opening of all time.
But it's the same. It's nearly the exact same as the opening to this one. So then it like just starts to bleed together,
blur together. Yeah.
The other thing I didn't like about this that I sort of like, just knowing about Friday the 13th from chatting with you, Darby, and is that there was always sort of like kind of a moral component to, like, Jason's always killing sinners, kind of.
Yeah.
And it sort of starts that way, and then it just becomes this like random, like, oh, this, I don't like this. I mean, it was clear like it didn't have a meaning to it after a while, that it was just sort of gratuitous. And that, I feel like that one of the kind of intriguing things about the whole Friday the 13th thing is that he is kind of motivated to kill people who are like sinners. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, it's like the people that led to his death, essentially, right? The camp counselors weren't watching him because they were busy having sex, and you could extend that into partying or being irresponsible or doing naughty things, right?
Yeah.
You see that a lot in horror movies. So I'm thinking of like the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, where it's this very killing those who wronged you, and then by extension, people doing similar things, breaking some kind of moral code. It doesn't necessarily have to be any moral code in real life, but a moral code set in that film. But then as the franchises go on, it just becomes, no, he's more like a shark in Jaws, where he's just a killing machine without a moral code. And so I think you're right. I think you do see that in this film as opposed to one of the first one or two.
Yeah, because I noticed that like at the beginning of the movie, it really jumped out to me, like, oh, all these people are doing drugs or partying or out in the woods, etc. But then later on, like he's even killing like the virtuous people and
the counselor is just trying to help, and
the grandpa. It's weird. Darby,
which are very disappointing, right?
Yes.
So that here I'll jump in, with some of my bads, some very disappointing kills, right? I mean, we talked about how we don't get to see all the blood and gore in its glory. Not that you need that all the time. We talked in the last version that our favorite kill was just like a shadow of someone getting impaled, but you can only do that so much as well. But you get the main counselor guy and Gramps. They're just killed off screen, right? Like maybe the two most virtuous people. Gramps, the person who probably has like the most likable moments, right? He's just offed, so let's see. Run through my. You've already covered a lot of them, Martin. But I will say this movie has the least fun title sequence so far of the movies. The music, while it's the same composer, I feel like it just doesn't carry the same oomph that the other ones had. They were supposed to do like an exploding mask, like the Friday the 13th goes and explodes through the mask, and there's da 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 bum 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 da, like I don't know. It makes me think of Bugs Bunny getting chased around or something. But this was just like a Friday the 13th, a new beginning, and here's just this black or this white text on a black background. Your movie's gonna start. Just wait. I don't know. The other ones, the title sequences, like just always get me pumped up for what's about to come, and this did not do it for me.
Yeah.
This is a terrible halfway house.
Yeah, agreed.
Like
Yep.
I don't understand the point of these people being there if they have like no group counseling sessions, or they don't have any responsibilities. It's all the honor system, but they let the guy who like is clearly violent go out and chop wood. Like what is the purpose of these people being here? They let Tommy go off with this female counselor. The 80s were wild. Like they did not have counseling down at that point in time.
No.
But the thing just kind of doesn't make sense in a way. This is something that was a bad from the last movie that continues on into this movie. They didn't use Tommy's masks at all.
I know.
So Martin, you said it's stupid that the guy's like wearing a bald cap. Well, it would have made sense if
he would have stole it from Tommy.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like at some point in time, if they were like searching through Tommy's room because they think he's the killer and they find this mask in there or something, or they find it earlier and that implicates him. They
that's true.
The mask thing 2 times in a row.
Yeah, the mask was like kind of pointless.
It's a very cool character quirk to have and not do anything with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then my last bad, and we'll get to you, Chris, is I don't know if it's a bad, but it's just kind of a big question that like weighs heavy on my heart in this movie, and it's the why now and why is this all happening, right? Like it just so happens that the day that the kid traumatized from an axe murderer gets to town, that another guy is axe murdered, and it just so happens that the paramedic who picks up the victim was his long lost estranged father, and it just so happens that he decides to take on the persona of the person who traumatized this supposed main character. Like man, how many coincidences like are justifiable in a movie? I mean, it's like, why is this happening? Like, and I think again, if they put in things like the town is still reeling from the Friday the 13th massacre, right? And people are more superstitious than ever now, and they season that in the whole way through. Would have made sense, but like it's just not there.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so that's my last bad on it. I could probably pick apart more and more things, but what do you have, Chris?
Pretty much both of you covered most of what I have. It's just too many kills, too many random kills where you don't get to know any of the main characters. You could have, like Martin said, taken out around 5 kills, got to know all the main characters, the teenagers, learned to care about them, and then their deaths would have meant something. Or if they would have escaped, it would have given you some suspense and a thrill. It was very cartoony, and that's not necessarily a bad, but like as soon as Ethel came on that first time, I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to go with this because it seemed like
I have no choice. I'm in it.
Yeah, it was caricature over character for the whole thing. Yeah. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you play to that strength, but I don't think they did here. It just, a lot of it just felt like some of the teenagers felt like kids in the 80s. And I think if we would have got to know them a little more, I could have believed that they were real people. But then when you have that butted up against with this larger than life cartoons who are just crazy. It doesn't quite work. And then I think my main last bad was it was Roy. Like, out of all the people you could have picked, like, Roy, come on. Even with like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you killed his son, but none of the people he killed did anything to his son. Like, it's just, you had so many things. I think the mystery, I liked the idea of it, but it could work in a slasher film. But I think like the fact that you just saw a hand with a weapon stabbing someone and then you cut away, or you have a death off screen, you didn't play up any of the mystery. You didn't have people talking about like, hey, who do you think it could be? Or, hey, Jason's dead, so what's going on?
Yeah.
So you diminish from the slasher part, because the slasher part is the fun kills. And I'm okay with taking away some of that if you actually give me true mystery. But instead, you just gave me close-ups of a weapon and a little bit of ketchup or something. And there was no mystery that you teased the audience with. And I think if you were going to do what you were trying to do, you should have really went with that. And so it made a crappy mystery and a crappy slasher instead of elevating both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to good. We've crapped all over this movie.
There's some good. There is some good.
Yeah, Martin. It might be hard, but what is the diamond in the rough of
you
this
liked
movie?
the music? You can say it
you
again.
Like the music? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I liked the score. I think that's really good. I mean, it had all the elements of a good like score of representing the characters and all that. And I liked how it looked. I mean, I think the cinematography was really good. I thought the shots were framed really well, and the story was told with the camera super well. I mean, I think it's hard to make movies, so I'm impressed like that anything gets across the finish line. So that's really amazing to me. And I mean, the fact that it made that much money with that small of a budget like was a huge success to me with all of that. I think like it definitely has made me curious about the lead up to those films and watching the other ones, which is not something that I normally would have done. And it definitely makes you more invested. Like, I think it was like kind of a realization of how invested you become in like the Jason character, that he's the bad guy, but you kind of hope that you kind of wish that he was the bad guy in this one. And it's sort of like, because it's disappointing that he's not there. It makes the other ones like, oh, I really appreciate this character a lot more.
Well, that's really interesting because in Freddy versus Jason, a big complaint people have is that they humanize Jason too much. They make him, they literally make him kind of like a Frankenstein, like they give him Frankenstein shoes because they want you to have the sympathetic monster.
I love Freddy versus Jason.
I mean, I thought that was a brilliant move. Like they had to do it, but it's interesting that you see that basically so early on in the franchise. Right? We're like 6 or 7 movies away before they actually take that step.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Jason in his backstory is sort of a sympathetic character just because he's a little boy who drowned and then becomes this murderer. So I mean, there is some kind of sympathy in that, but it's just like it's hard to believe that it would be somebody else, and so that kind of helps you invest in the character. There were some things in there that I don't know if they were intentional, but like they're running around in the woods kind of by the stream, and there's this like big castor plant, which is like a poisonous plant, and they're always like messing with it. And I thought, I mean, if like these people who end up dying, like I saw like 4 or 5 people who like died like messing around with this castor plant. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's foreshadowing. But then then it just becomes this random thing. So I'm like, it probably was just an accident.
And they're naked
there. Yeah, it would probably was.
I assume it's like I don't know what it is. Is that a poisonous plant?
It grows like a pod that they turn into ricin poison. I don't know how to do it.
If you're gonna break bad, it's what you do.
Yeah, but it's there. I mean, it's like a death plant, right? Like it's there on the thing. But because it was only there, I just think it was an accident that it just happened to be growing there. Like because it doesn't make sense later on. But if they, so I thought there were a lot of opportunities that I think that this movie could have been like really, really, really good if they just would have like laid off of all of the characters. Like some of them could have gotten away, like the main camp counselor guy and Grandpa could have, you know, been in town getting help from the sheriff or whatever, trying to solve the problem, and then they come after everything's over. They're the ones who show up to like comfort everybody. I mean, so there were characters that I liked in there, but I think it got in its own way. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. Like it was, you know, yeah, it's like a cartoon. It was fun. like, oh, this isn't scary at all. I'm not scared at all. This is just like entertaining. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I'll throw in my goods, Chris, and then I'll let you end on it.
Okay.
I know I know you didn't necessarily care for them, but I did enjoy the Hubbards.
Yeah, no, they're in my good.
It's like once you settle in, you're like, yeah, okay, this is what it's going to be. I do think that they were a very entertaining part of the movie, and like I said earlier, just that connection between Jason and his mother that I saw there. I really enjoyed that, and I wish there was more of it. I wish it would have been able to blossom in some other way, other than some quick, like, not great kills. Come on, shouldn't her head have been floating in the stew, or 100%. Shouldn't she have been like boiled in?
Well, yeah, like the boy, the boy comes in after riding his motorcycle, and it's like, Ma, well, I guess the stew's ready, and he takes a big spoonful, and then her head pops up. I mean, like, yeah. Come on, people. I mean, yeah, you have a good there, but which I'll circle back to when I do mine. But what else you got, Darby?
So you didn't like Roy being the killer, but I think watching it and knowing that he's the killer, I think that they do their due diligence with him. I mean, he gets disturbed when he sees the body. He's got that 1,000-mile stare. And the other paramedic, he says a great line to him. He says, "Come on, Roy, get your hands dirty." And like, that's sort of like, I feel like sets him on his path. He's like, all right, I'm going to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, he snaps. Yeah.
And then the next time we see him, he's like smiling.
Right.
He's like, what? Oh, I thought you were talking to me, Sheriff. You know, like,
yeah.
I do think that they seed in Roy well, whether or not it was a good decision, you know, up in the air. But I do think that they do their due diligence to bring that story out.
No, they make it make sense with that beginning and that ending. I just would have preferred them to make sense with some other killer. But yeah, you're right. They do. They totally do.
I enjoyed the moments when Tommy was a badass. Like I just rolled when he body slammed Eddie. Like, yeah. Like, because that dude's being such a prick, and he just like picks him up and slams him through a table.
Oh yeah.
Like, wouldn't you like to do that to someone sometimes? Just like, Hulk out.
Anytime someone wears one of my masks, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, man, don't touch the mask. And I mean, like, he clobbered Junior pretty good. I mean, he like
that was
had
a fun
real fighting things.
And see, that was oh, go ahead.
Good. No, keep going.
That's a great scene right there for who is the killer, because you have Junior, who's antagonizing him, and probably not all there. So he totally could be a killer. But you also have Tommy getting upset and going a little too ham on him, right? And so and then they both kind of disappear. So you're like, that if you had more things like that was a good interaction of this secondary, tertiary character who comes back into it and is just being a jerk for no reason, of like, oh, you're that crazy boy. And then you have them fight and then go off. If we had more things like that, you would have a really cool mystery and a much better movie.
Yeah. Totally agreed. And they mentioned some interesting things at the beginning, like this is better than like the state institution because there's no guards here. Like, there's this implication that he has had a violent past. Yes. Like he should be Vic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like, he should be the guy who's going to axe some annoying person. And more of that could have been brought out. Missed opportunity. So basically, my main good for this movie is that I think that this movie is made up of very good individual scenes.
100%. Yes. Yep.
Put together, it's kind of a mess, but like the diner scene, like it sticks in my head as iconic. The ending scene of him behind the door with the knife and the new mask. I like to call it the Salvador Dali mask because it's got the marks right there. Like that is an iconic image. Like that's a good ending. It fits in line with the previous films in that like every ending is a dream.
Yep.
But they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, where he has the dream and then it's supposed to be reality. But then in retrospect, they're like, oh no.
It's also a
just
dream.
A dream.
It's another dream.
We double dreamed you. We incepted you very hard.
I just have a question, like in the midst of all of this, like, so this film was kind of meant to reset the series, I read.
Yes.
Do you think it did that?
No.
Yeah, it may have. Because after this, that's when we get the era of zombie Jason. I've been looking this up. Many people say that Jason is not dead until the end of part 4.
Right.
They say that, I mean, to me, it feels like he's very clearly dead by the end of 3. Like he's got an axe to the head. But they say that like his abnormalities are like save him, right? Allow him to like keep going with that.
I think what Martin was reading though was more about how like Jason's dead and Tommy becomes the new Jason, and then we follow him as a killer in the movies. That's what they were trying to set up as Tommy as the new killer, and that did not happen.
No.
So Tommy is not Jason in any of the future movies that have come out.
But I'm curious, like because then the next film you say is one of your favorites.
Yes.
Because this one departed from so many of the tropes that did it set up the reset for like here's a new way to make it more interesting and all that.
Well, so not to give too much away, but at the very beginning of this movie, Jason gets brought back to life in the best opening of the whole series.
Yeah.
Hands down, there's one thing it does that I won't spoil, but man, the first time I saw it, I think I rewound it like 10 times.
Well, like you said, Martin, it helped people. It helped like the movie producers realize how much people actually like Jason.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
They don't want someone in a mask. They don't want just any mask, right? They want Jason.
Yep.
And so that helped them. It kind of soft rebooted the franchise in a different way, not a way that they planned. Yeah, right. They had to course correct on that. And so I personally view it as like a pivot point.
Yes.
For the movies, this is like the middle, and then you have the before movies where he's semi like human, and then after that he's straight up zombie Jason. Where I think there's a lot of cool lore and I
love Zombie Jason. Also, part 6, the one after this, they did a really good job with horror comedy, which was always kind of a vein in all the movies, but this one really like runs with it, but it doesn't like take it too far.
Right. They really tried it in this one and failed.
Did not work.
And the next one they get it right.
They get it right. Yeah. I mean, part 6 is Jason Lives is my all-time favorite. Yeah. That's why I'm so bummed there's not another Friday the 13th.
It'll be like a year before we get there.
Yeah.
Tell us your goods for this movie.
Okay, so very similar to both of yours. I have Ethel down. I complain that they are caricatures because I think it weakens the movie, but the individual scenes with them, like you said, I love. In fact, it's a good and a bad, but I love the secondary and tertiary character scenes more than any of the teens.
Yeah.
Like, because they're these little like perfect horror vignettes, like the diner scene. You know, he's gone, he gets killed, and she takes the little mirror with Coke on it off the floor. Like, she's got to be desperate to do that. Like, that's a bit of
she's ready to party, man.
Yeah, when Ethel's chopping the chicken up and yelling at her son, just so over the top and just like
I ain't that good looking.
Yeah, redneck zombies. Like you're like, oh, okay, this is the Jaws scene with the mayor again.
Mhm.
A great little bit. There were a lot of the deaths happened off camera, and a lot of the death scenes were really boring. But there were a couple that I really liked. I liked the first kill because it happened out of nowhere. You're like, okay, he's annoying this guy, and the guy's got an axe, but
Mhm.
he's not just gonna kill him. Nope, he straight up kills him.
Yeah.
And then the second kill, I was like, man, I must not remember this movie very well because I think we're gonna have a lot of great kills. It was the flare in the mouth and like
Oh yeah.
the close up, and you can see it
That
glowing.
was very graphic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could tell that it's a
Fake.
prop dummy,
Yeah.
right? I was like, oh, we're really in for it. And then they
Yeah, I'm
kind
like, man, those are the first kill, solid. The second kill, solid, and then just bleh.
of-
I thought when they killed the lover boy, when he strapped him to the tree, there was something really disturbing about like cutting out the eyes like they did, like
Mhm.
with his lover, him, and then the when the grandpa
grandpa.
gets thrown in. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really creepy. That was almost too creepy for like for a Friday the 13th. Like I
That
like
felt like
gory.
a different movie
Yeah,
to me. Like
gory is
the
different
eyes
than
killer.
creepy, but just
Yeah.
like you're barely killing them, but you're doing it in such a gross way that like I'm like, it doesn't fit. I loved Violet's dance, and I loved that they yeah, you know, it's like the dance from Wednesday, but also harkens back to Crispin Glover's dance in the previous movie, right?
Right.
And so I also really liked a lot of the callbacks. The return to the barn, it's a very similar scene, and we get a chainsaw machete sword fight. That is amazing.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was amazing. Then we have Reggie with a tractor versus Jason. Like, and it just
Mhm.
bursts out.
Yeah, that was
And,
cool.
like, these little individual moments are some of my favorite moments in the whole series, like you said. But when they piece them together, it's such a haphazard, shoddy way that it just the whole thing falls apart. The parts are not are greater than the whole with this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot. I mean, like a lot of those kills that were kind of off camera could have just been like all at once. You come into the house and somebody's
Yeah.
going through the house and everybody is dead in
Yeah.
all of those ways.
Right.
And it
Well,
would
I
have
mean,
been the same thing, and it's all over in 35
Yeah.
seconds.
you could have just cut a lot of those kills and had
Yeah.
Reggie open the door and see the 4 bodies there like he did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Done.
So
That's probably what they did when it was on network television.
Yeah.
the last two goods. I love that it opened with Corey Feldman. Got one of my favorite 80s actors.
Yeah.
The reason that he's not the star of this movie and they had to go with an older actor is because he was off filming Goonies. So I think he made the right choice.
Ultimately.
Yeah, ultimately. But I mean, a little bit of opening with him, I was like, man, I must really not remember this movie because I thought he was only in part 4. So, and then the last one is the basic setting for the plot, the basic idea. I thought was super strong. I like the idea of troubled teens going to this like hippie place out in the middle of nowhere with no guards. I'm like, that is a really strong twist on the generic cabin in the woods setting. Did they execute it very well at all? No, they botched it almost at every turn. But the idea I thought was really solid.
Well, there's always the question of like, okay, we need teen cannon fodder. How do we get them all here that isn't we're just going out for a party, like doing the same thing over and over again? I thought that was a great idea. And I have a buddy who worked at a place kind of like that. And I mean, like the amorous teens were actually like pretty accurate. Like those teens, they'll
wander off.
Youth, yeah, they'll wander off. They got to check them like every few minutes every night to like make sure they're not.
If you have ticks on you, you were probably in the woods doing something you shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
You know, this it reminded me of like the movie we did in April Fool's Day, where it's like a really solid idea for a movie that just wasn't quite executed as it should be. I mean, I thought I preferred that movie, but just that idea of like, it's a solid idea. I wish you would have been able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. A lot of bad in this movie. There's also a lot of individual things to love. And I think that's kind of that is the verdict of Friday the 13th Part 5.
And you will not appreciate Part 6 as much unless you've watched Part 5. And Part 6 is so good.
That's potentially true. All right. Well, I think we've talked this movie to death until we can resurrect it, the series next year. Martin, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're a busy guy. You got shows to play, contests to win, albums to put out. Thea is a light blue. Check it out now on Bandcamp. Boom. There it is. I love it being like a Conan O'Brien, like, and now his brand new album. Like maybe get your guitar and play us out. But thank you everybody for stopping in.
What do we got coming
Darby. Oh yeah, shoot. We got more shows. Where's my head at? Next month is one of our favorite months of the year. It is Shark Month. We are going to have our friend, our fellow YouTuber, another fellow YouTuber, Lance, the obscure movie guy, who joins us every Shark Month. We are going to be doing Jaws 2. We've already done the first one. I believe it's the 50th anniversary. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
But we got to do another Jaws movie. Maybe we'll do a second movie, double feature. I don't know. You decide. Let us know. Anyway, I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. With me is Chris Anonymous. And underneath me here is Martin Gilmore. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all later. Schlock on, everybody. Bye.